so much of conversation around HI, AI, all of that as well. I'm going to sort of ask everyone, whoever's in the room as well, who's your first AI in the family that you sort of remember, call, reach out to? It could be son, daughter, spouse, mom, dad. Who's that first AI? Anyone says kids? Moms? So is father the universal AI for everyone in the room? Spouse? So it's a bit of everyone, right? So sort of yes. So maybe sort of food for thought, when you go back to your respective sort of, I think, cities to sort of understand who is that perennial, always AI in your life. And with that, let's sort of set up an interesting stage with some interesting speakers. And with all of this narrative being spoken through in terms of sort of, I think, rush towards omni-channel, e-commerce, driving growth, and the narrative that Shiny said yesterday as well, it's all essentially moving to a sort of ecosystem that we're fundamentally building to drive for better commerce. And because that better commerce has to happen, for marketers, for the longest time, our data sets have been sitting in different silos, different spaces, different verticals, and often a challenge, right? Most of our organizations, a lot of companies still keep data close to their chest. So this is financial data, this is marketing data, these are hard realities. Having said that, 4 interesting people will perhaps come up on stage to share practical insights of their own organizations, how they're building for this entire sort of world moving towards commerce. So can we have interesting people? Mr. Puneet Gulati. Without much ado, please, the floor is all set. And we have an absolutely fantastic sort of moderator as well. The floor is all yours.
All the highs and hellos and AIs and SEOs of the world have been done. I think let's get to basics. And basic starts with Kunal, so I'll go with you first. We're talking about ownership versus alignment. In the day when the entire commerce is changing the way we consume on-the-go products. So Kunal, you've been at a point, you've been selling one of the largest brand in terms of selling the basmati. You've been selling it from a point of view of saying that each grain is distinct. But how do you take this when you talk about the teams together? Because you sit with a large team and now commerce, and very soon you will have your own AI team vertical as well within your team. So does this separate, distinct within the teams hit you? How does it hit, and what are the ways that you're trying to maintain these silos to not impact how the brand shows to the outer world?
And that's a very interesting question. I mean, one of the product truths in the category that we operate in, we talk about separate grains. Yeah, but in this particular case, I think all the grains are in the pressure cooker, right? So I think it's a very interesting one, and these are interesting times. I mean, there's no denying the fact that quick commerce, e-commerce, they've changed the landscape of how even the marketing teams are looking at, approaching their media plans. So I think a couple of things that I would like to call out here. One, what we've tried to do very interestingly is to have clarity in terms of what metrics each team is accountable for, right? So in terms of investments, if we look today at commerce, I think fundamentally 2 elements that brands are investing in. One is pure play search, and the other is in terms of on-app visibility assets that we are all taking. I think we've distinguished between the 2 and planted them in different parts of the P&L, right? One part, which is search, which is largely being measured on performance, which is being measured on what kind of ROAS generation it is giving us. That part we've kept with the commerce teams who are generating that revenue. And they are accountable for optimizing and making sure that it's working hard to deliver the metrics that they are accountable for. The other thing that we've done is we've plummeted all the visibility, on-app visibility, etc. investments with the marketing team. So that the marketing team then sees it from the view of the investment of the brand and not really a channel investment. So what that has helped do is to really separate the KPIs for the two teams, but at the same point of time, there is a unification at an organization level where we are trying to see what impact we're able to drive. So that's what we've tried to do in
So
terms
then
of
you be
structuring this.
the head chef.
Yeah.
Got it. So moving on, Puneet, like how Kunal was mentioning that there is brand team that sits and looks at overall brand view, and in which one of the channel becomes the QCOM channels and the channels of today's. How do you look from your angle in terms of which team gets the ownership of the budgets versus, let's say, who's only doing a fluff, or let's say who's only adding the show of a dashboard? So how does that go in for in terms of brand KPIs became clear, performance KPIs become clear, but ownership versus for the budget and showcase that I own the budget. So how do you manage that as a problem?
So I think the key aspect there is whom are we doing this for, right? So it's for the consumer.
Huh.
Consumer is the first one. So whether and silos never work. So
Absolutely.
I don't think I'm not a big proponent of that at all. So I think the paramount thing in all of this, whether that's the brand team, e-commerce team, media team, I think has to be in the service of the consumer. And for that to happen, I think the transference of information has to be much more smoother than very clear just that you are doing this and you're doing that. However, I think as an organization, of course, there need to be clear roles and responsibilities, right? And I think to me, there is a lot of a lot of those lines are blurring as we're moving fast in the age of information. And I think it's actually not right to say that the e-commerce team, for example, will not have any say in how the consumer views the product, or the media team will only be there for spending and will not have a say on how the experience for the consumer works. So I think the three have to work together. It's not an easy one, but I think that's probably why there are senior people out there who are supposed to be doing that. So in my view, those three have to work in tandem to be able to get the right experience out to the consumer. So that is very, very important. But end of the day, classically speaking, from a consumer ownership, experience ownership, I think the ownership should sit with the brand very clearly. I think that is where, because that is prima facie the equity that they are supposed to be leading and that they're supposed to handle. And however, as I said, it is not about silos anymore.
So, Puneet, you're saying that ownership, and second, I will say the sleepless mattress also into the boardroom to put everything to rest.
Yeah, so ownership, absolutely. Ownership is a key thing, that is supposed to be there, and that is how you drive it. But I don't think it is, as I said, it's not about working in silos, for sure.
Got it. So, moving on, Abhishek, you're managing multi-category portfolios. And with that, I'm sure your current entire QCOM, e-com percentage to the overall business might be, let's say, single digit or early double digit, in my take. It could be higher, that's very good. But there is a lot of data that comes in from this at a real-time level. Now, how much of that real-time data adds to the masala? Or it's still that, okay, it's a vanity metrics that I have to showcase that, okay, this is how the consumer is running, and I still get the data whether I act on it or not. So how do you actually making sense of that so much of data overload that comes from these Q-commerce and e-commerce guys and keep scaling your business on them?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to give a clear insight. Like in the earlier panel, we have heard a lot. There's a lot of data which is coming from AI and all that stuff, and there's no single dashboard which we guys are working on. So most of the organizations, even ITCs of the world or Godrej or Nestle, is not able to crack that particular thing. which is a single dashboard and single metrics which can be looked at from an angle which can be leading to the consumer outcomes or your actionability to that extent. So we also feel true to that. There are certain things which are working in silos, but at the single purpose, which is your consumer penetration and all that stuff. And if we look at e-com, quick-com, your guess may not be really right. We are in a single digit or early to double digit. So we are growing really fast in the category, and thanks to our persona, the catch really stands out in that perspective. So we are a healthy double digit. I would not quote the number. You can get the numbers from. Absolutely. So otherwise, like this is the channel which is number one for us. So we really do that particular thing, and I'm just pick up a couple of things from Kunal. Kunal, in his organization, they are working on certain things. Visibility is at the brand side, and the offers and other stuff is at the e-com side. But in our case, it's slightly different. So whatever is the consumer visibility in terms of brand messaging or in terms of our big campaigns, these still lie with the brand teams. But when we talk about e-com, quick-com, the quick actionability comes when it is with the largely the e-com team. There are brand guardrails, there are brand ecosystem which are really defined. So communication is not in their hands, but at the same time, whatever visibility in terms of keyword search or something like that, that exactly lies with the core teams. So that creates the speed, that creates the actionability faster. So that is something which is there in terms of large KPIs. And if I'll talk about certain things which are working in the ecosystem, like we do it especially from visibility, from business point of view. All e-com things are supposed to be driven by the teams which are performing. And at the same time, there are certain metrics which are consumer metrics, which are largely being looked at by the brand. And there is a key single thing, which is household penetration and the market share, which we drive from that particular lens. So that's how the things are defined in DS.
So for everyone in the audience, there are already two ways of solving the same problem, whichever works for your set of organizations and your set of people. I'll just bring you in, Kunal, into this. All of this data coming in, how are you deciding the next rupee to be spent?
No, I think that's an interesting question. One thing that I, honestly want to put on the table, and I think there's so many people in the room who are working with commerce today. I think the fact of the matter is, good old days, general trade had a GTM playbook. Today, all of us, if you ask anyone, they'll all pull out different playbooks from their pocket because everybody is trying, experimenting. And I think the ability to test and learn, pick up what's, working, scale that up, and keep doing more trials is the, the name of the game today, I think. And the nuances are up to a category level. So rice versus spices versus fizzy drink behave very differently. And that's the fun part of, working in the kind of ecosystem that we are working today in. So I think, to answer your question, I think it's also a lot of optimization happening on the go, right? There is no AOP that you can finalize at the beginning of the year and say, tell the board that this is what our plans are and this is how, we plan to execute them. Gone are those days where you used to say, okay, we're going to be 30 weeks on air, X GRPs, etc., etc. Those things are all getting changed every quarter. So as a culture, what we have at least tried to do with our organization is to tell them that, look, this is such a dynamic place that we'll not probably be able to hold up an AOP and an action plan, at an annual level. We'll keep coming back and updating you on what's happening at a quarter level and telling you what kind of improvisations and learnings we are carrying forward. And I think that level of empowerment needs to go down to the organization because that's when we'll be fast in the market. Otherwise we're going to be, left behind. So I think that's how we are looking at it.
So bringing in Puneet, are these data points how you look at it? Of course, we saw it from how the brand needs to be visible. We also saw how you keep doing the repetitive things. And how are in your own teams and meetings, are you bringing out this data to be relevant enough, or it's just the advertising of your own mattress in the room?
Sure. So I think in a room you're as good as the question you ask, right? So that's not for you, for the for the business metric. So I think in my view, there are because of the proliferation of the data points, there is definitely, if you are at it and you do some prioritization, you can work out what are your key metrics for that sort of a business challenge and problem, right? Because the challenges and the problems are now multifaceted, right? And they are some things you cannot even predict sometimes, right? But at the same time, I think what are those key metrics that help solve that question or challenge, I think is the key. And I think they all exist. I think it's maddening to look all of it together. And because there's so many of them. But at the same time, I think if you are very clear about what's the question, what's the challenge, what do you want to look at? For example, the gentleman had the last slide on, which said that traffic is all incoming, but let's say brand share of voice is one metric that you
One
want
clear KPI that
look
you
at.
look
So
at.
now it totally depends on what you are chasing, right? If you are looking for market share proxies and you're looking for, let's say, share of search, and
Got it.
then it gets complicated around, whether you included the AEOs or GEOs or not.
So then for your commerce, you have clear
Yes. So,
KPIs that you've
yes.
put
So
up.
there are clear KPIs. We believe that having a top 3 definitely helps. So they are
Got it.
simple on the chart. There will be others which impact, but I think my strong submission is that was kind of a model that really works is agreeing on what those big 3 which you can measure are. They are always there in front of you. And I think that's the way to avoid a lot of proliferation. And I think syncing the metric to the business challenge is going to be is the art.
So it becomes quite relevant what Kunal was saying, that keep re-looking at it at a smaller interval so that it keeps sinking in within the teams as well.
I think just to kind of add to what he's saying, I think that's a fair point that
Yeah.
the KPIs are clear. Now, how you go about achieving those KPIs could change, but the KPIs need clarity. That's what I would agree.
So that's not for relooking. What's for relooking is how do you solve for the challenge.
Got it. So from ownership to clear KPIs, now we come to the last part of the conversation, which is speed versus structure. So what usually happens is Q-commerce changing, ROs changing. Every hour there is something happening onto the platform. There is a different, suddenly there is a trend. Now because of that trend, something has started selling even more. So coming back to this, so Abhishek, it's to you. You've seen all of your legacy brand, big, so big portfolio. Now, how do you manage all of these compliances within your organization? Let's say from a legal point of view, you have to do certain things within the commerce team which makes you fast, which allows you to execute really fast. How are you putting those guardrails within your team? So if you can put certain light on that.
Yeah, a couple of things. One is कि somebody earlier said कि legal team के साथ चाय कॉफी पीते रहो, things will be sorted.
It never works.
Yeah, it never works. But at the same time, I would say कि in organizations like ours, they're slightly more linear than very hierarchical driven. So those are something which are really works well when there are linear organizations. So at the same time, if I'll talk about legacy brands like us, we have certain metrics which are working for our consistency and the communication and our media choices and all that, which is for the brand purpose and the brand benefits. But same time, when we talk about the actionability at the ground, from the quick com lens, which is more speed, so their actionability is practically on the moments. We really not harp on every moment in terms of doing moment marketing and all that stuff, which may backfire. It gets backfired for certain people in the industry. But at the same time, we have to just pick up the signals. We're not supposed to go everywhere for the noise. So that
Got
is
it.
something which is clear mandate in our
Understood.
figures.
Understood. So I'll pick you up on this, Kunal. One is, of course, the governance, the legal aspect. I want to bring in something which is from a supply chain point of view. GTMT, you guys must be doing somewhere around 75 to 85% of your entire business there. Now, suddenly there comes something which is commerce, which wants you to be delivered into multiple warehouses across India. Have you changed because of this, the entire structure or the backbone on which the entire company was set up?
Yeah, I'd like to say that that's, some of these things which happen actually trigger fundamental structural changes in organizations which are good for the organization in the long run. So I think e-commerce is stretching organizations and more legacy organizations in that way. Like one of the things that I want to cite is, typically now we have a service guy who sits out of the supply chain team as a service manager for the accounts. So he's front-ending with accounts to ensure, all the supply chain problems. So that's a rewiring that we had to do, rewiring in our own minds and rewiring at an org structure level. And those kind of things do happen. And I think the way we look at data now, in terms of, one of the basic things, the classical things that we talk about is availability, right? So we look at dashboards every day. Our key account management team, the first thing that they do as a ritual in the morning is to look at where the gaps are, and to be able to talk to platforms and tell them this is the reason. Or if there's a supply issue of a particular SKU at our end, then to talk to supply chain and, figure out the reason. So I think from that standpoint, there's a huge amount of agility that has come into the DNA of organizations driven through the commerce channels.
Basis channel, you have redefined the way your structure works.
Yeah.
Puneet, quick one on this. You must be giving the QCom guys or the commerce guys the most of the heart attacks, given the size of the product. They are very happy in moving very small sizes, right? And you have something which starts from 6 feet. So given that as a perspective, how does the entire structure works for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's great because it's structurally changed many things. So it's driven innovation from a product lens. For the need of convenience, and consumers are also, and for lack of knowledge, are kind of screwing their backs because they're buying rolled mattresses, assuming it's good for backs, because you got to roll it and then it gets shipped from e-com, right? And when you roll a mattress, I mean, imagine how is it that's going to give you the kind of back support that you need. So it's funny how the ecosystem of convenience changes how the category is viewed, and of course as people discover over time and then they come back and realize, so that's not worked for me, and of course it will not. But so that's one side of the story. The other I was telling about is innovation and where products and brands do. So again, speaking of the category now, there are tri-fold mattresses, so you can easily fold them and they become one simple, easy. So that's like you can pick like this, and the materials used is lightweight, so the quick commerce guy can quickly supply it. So that's the kind of work, I mean, structurally how things change in the product side. Of course, warehousing has completely changed. The team structures internally have changed. So I think that the guys have covered. So yes, that does lead to structural changes, all in the, as I said, all in the service of the consumer.
That was the first for me, where it's actually bringing in the product changes to the level to service the channel. So brilliant. Thank you so much, guys, for giving out time and your learnings with us. And thank you for the audience. It's just that I think they all need a mattress to sleep.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Dr. Ashish, and to all the panelists. We do have room for 2 to 3 questions, so I'll just come back to that. Yes, quick show of hands. We've got 3 of you. Start with you.
Thanks. Hi. Abhishek, you spoke about having different sources of truth. How do you react when different sources of truth give you contradicting answers?
That's an interesting question. So it depends upon the brand objective and the question which has been raised from the different platforms. For example, if I'm looking at something which is need of the hour, for example, very specific to a particular channel like e-com, quick com, then the answer is very simple. Then you have to just live with the hour and you have to action it there and then. When it comes to something which is related to brand values and all that stuff, that particular thing needs a serious understanding and thought. So that's how we generally believe in, like what exactly the insight is and how we have to react on that.
Sorry,
I'm
I'll
able to
jump
answer.
into this one. Then please relook at those sources of truth. So can't have, if that's the source there it needs to come, then the contradiction means those sources are not correct.
Yeah. My name is Viren Jalawade, co-founder of Socks Carving. So my question is to all of you three. You are also a leader in a big firm in particular marketing area. So एक young entrepreneur आपके पास आज आए बिजनेस की सलाह लेने के लिए, सो आप क्या उनको सलाह देंगे इन वन लाइन जो एमबीए की किताबों में बेसिकली नहीं मिलती है?
तो वो क्यूकॉम के स्पेसिफिक सलाह पूछ रहे हो आप?
In terms of marketing, basically their domain is related to marketing, and marketing is the main pillar in the business. So I'm talking.
Over to you guys.
I think I'd tell you, channels keep changing, the consumer is constant. So focus always on the consumer. Channels are diffusion, I would say.
भेड़ चाल में मत पड़ो.
You'll get the very similar answers. So you have to define your brand purpose and you have to understand the consumer. So that is something which is very much needed.
I have just moved to what the question that you asked, from a CMO to now a co-founder, and I'm living that journey. What you have asked, absolutely. The only thing I'll say it at the start: make sure you survive. तो मार्केटिंग ब्रांड कब बनाना है उसका नंबर बहुत बाद में आएगा. पहले उतना बना लो, चैनल पे डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन खड़ी कर लो कि आप सर्वाइव कर सको.
Nice. I think co-founder वाला answer है.
Lovely. I think we have one more question out here and one more.
Hi, I'm Manuraj from LS Digital. Okay, talking about the entire topic of how to, break silos. We know organization has got different functions. Sales works on revenue. Commerce business works on GMV. Then your brand works on awareness. If we have to rejig all of this so that actually this cross-functional barriers breaks, what center has to be put in the center, and what incentives can be brought upon so that interdepartmental silos can be broken off?
I think the first answer would be your penetration number needs to be looked at from the household perspective. So there are multiple channels, but ultimately the consumer is the real truth. And if I'll talk about metrics, I would still say there are certain metrics which are limited to the certain channels. So my SCM will be aggressively moving towards its fill rates and all that stuff. My e-com, quick-com would be looking at the consumer trials and the retentions. So repeat is something which has been picked up last evening. So that is very important in those channels. So those particular things are there, like there would be no single guardrail. The single guardrail is the consumer.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think when you do a full body health checkup, you look at multiple indicators, but you also, there's a doctor, a generalist who triangulates all of that and tells you a few things. I think you need to understand that that triangulation is extremely important. And Ashish rightly said that if the signals don't converge, then there's something wrong with how you're collecting the data. So, there is a convergence and there is a hypothesis which emerges out of this basis which you take action. So I think that triangulation and that reality will continue to exist. That's the value of the human mind that, we will continue to add to the table.
If you're looking for one word, that's growth. Growth is common. Then you triangulate everything. I mean, that's the metric that you need to chase across the organization between the three goals. So that should help.
Super, perfect.
We have time for one last question over here. Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, Puneet this side. From my perspective, AI is...
We can't see you at all, so sorry.
Please.
Because there's too much of light. Yeah, now I figured him out.
Yeah, but you can hear me, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my perspective is that AI is the new, say, dopamine rush. We have allocated some of our reels and shorts time to AI prompting, and it looks cute. But once we move beyond prompting, then the deployment of AI in itself, at least at this stage, is not very ROI friendly. that we have established in various panels so far. Big question for marketeer is, with AI, have the CACs gone down?
Sorry, have the
CACs gone down?
CAC gone down with coming of AI?
Yeah.
And a lot of us saying that we are using it to improve our performance spends.
Exactly.
Because of that, has the CAC come down?
Yes.
Brilliant question, भाई कितनों को पकड़ लिया आपने रूप
And
बहुत ही बढ़िया.
if not, how confident we are that in 1, 2, or 3 quarters it will go down?
क्या बात है, ये तो मैं कहता हूँ पैनल से पहले ना जितने वहाँ पे मेरे प्रेजेंटिंग स्पॉन्सर्स हैं आ जाओ. ये पहले वो जवाब देंगे इसका. नहीं, jokes apart, please guys.
I think, but in my experience, it's an easy answer. Yes, it has already gone down. And I think that level, in terms of how you look at the efficiency, sorry, I'm not able to look at you, but the efficiency across the multiple parameters that can be driven, or at least we have been able to drive with AI, has definitely brought down CAC for us in real life. So yes, it's short answer is yes.
With CPMs going up, we are able to bring down the CACs. Your conversions have improved, and because content streamlined, product streamlined, and those are the basic reasons why it is.
Yeah, so I wouldn't mix, let's say, extraneous factors.
Okay.
Right, because
Fair.
that's something that, like, with the war ho gaya, so things will
Fair,
change. So
fair.
that will change. But I mean, if you were to look at like to like, similar models, so I was reacting to CPMs and all. So then it does, because you bring in the efficiency, and then that helps.
Got it. And you guys are also saying the similar thing? Wow. So you got the validation. Thanks, Preet. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just, I thought before you all leave, could you decide which was the best question? Looks like.
नहीं यार ये तो.
That's a different one.
Yeah, that was a different one. The entrepreneurial question.
The entrepreneurial one. All right.
यार
So
हमारे
we'll come
अच्छे
to
नहीं
that.
थे. हमारे अच्छे नहीं थे.
इसीलिए तो आप यहाँ पे हो, sir. All right, just request you to come forward for a group photograph.